guys. Dental Discourse, episode 6. We're back with Mohammad Faraj.
Yep.
Very special guest we had last two episodes ago.
Fourth episode, yeah.
What's going on, guys? My name is Mohammed. I'm a third-year dental student at Nova. We're going to be having a nice talk about dental school today.
Yeah, last time you were here, we really didn't get into your experience in dental school. It was more undergrad and like leading up to dental school. So I thought we'd have you back and really just get into the dental school aspect. But you had like a crazy undergrad story.
Yeah,
so that was like
I think
awesome.
that deserved its own like segment because
it kind of took up the whole segment, didn't it?
Yeah,
that previous story.
Pretty much
kind of took up the whole.
We were here spitting for like an hour. It was good.
Yeah.
Got a lot of positive feedback from that. So
that's awesome, man. So I guess I would start off with like the experience, and I think this goes to any any upcoming dental student.
Mm-hmm.
It's like once you get accepted and you're preparing, 2 months before dental school, and you're sitting there trying to scavenger for books and what should I study and what how do I prepare?
Yeah.
Don't do none of that. It's not. A lot of people have approached me about that, and I think it's a good point to make that you don't need to study before dental school.
Yeah.
Once you start classes, you're gonna have plenty of studying to do. So I kind of mentioned last time that I was at like kind of like at a disadvantage, or so I thought I was, when Dr. Lippman kept mentioning to me that there's a lot of master students in your class, a lot of master students, yada yada, whatever the case was. So I thought that I was at a big disadvantage, and that it was time to it's like do or die for me, And I also didn't have a strong background in sciences. I had only taken. I don't even have a bachelor's degree. I don't have a bachelor's, so.
You don't have a bachelor's.
I still don't have a bachelor's, so I completed everything.
This is really do or die for you then.
Yeah, exactly. So, I completed all the requirements and did a couple extra classes, but there's nothing extravagant that I did that got me in. So anyway, when I did come into dental school, I was like, okay, all these kids have seen all these classes before. They've studied biochemistry like the back of their hand twice. They've studied anatomy twice. They've seen cadavers. They've dealt with microbiology. They've studied histology, neuroanatomy. There's so many classes that you take strictly in when you're going to get your doctorate's degree, which is dental school.
Right.
So for me, it was like, dude, I was scared shit. I kid you not, man. I was every single day. It was like from the beginning, the first day of school, orientation. I was taking notes, sitting there, and everybody was, I remember a lot of people were so cocky.
They're laid back.
Yeah, they're in dental school, they're this and that. And I'm just like, because we have some events that we do the first week of school. You get to know your classmates and stuff like that. It's an awesome time. Orientation week is basically just you're getting to know what the schedule's like, and you're getting to know the professors, and there's events outside of class that you guys actually get to meet your classmates. So a lot of them were cocky, and a lot of them were they just felt like they were kind of above the class. So for me, it was like I'm as humble as it could be coming in. I had no reason. Yeah, I had no reason not to be. So pretty much, you go in, you're in class from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. every day. 2 days out the week in your first year, at least at Nova, it's 2 days out the week you're doing lab work. So first semester is you're carving out wax and into teeth, and you're learning how to identify specific anatomy in the tooth. And then you're learning how to use the drills, and you're learning how to drill into teeth. All this is fake teeth, of course.
And this is the first semester?
This is first semester.
Nice. Okay.
They throw you right into it.
Yeah, exactly. So, it's you kind of transition into it from the waxing. You're doing waxing for 3 months up until November, which is when you start drilling. So on top of that, you take around 31 credits your first semester.
Yeah, we were hearing that it was something crazy like that. How many classes do you take?
I took
13, right?
I think 14 or 13 the first semester, of which 6 were sciences.
Just like.
What were the other ones that weren't science?
Like 5 or 6 of them were like dentistry based.
Classes?
Yeah, and then the other 2 were like, one was ethics and the other one was evidence based dentistry, where it's like you're learning how to kind of like navigate through specific information and articles to kind of tell which ones are more
trustworthy,
credible. Accurate, credible, all that. Yeah. So that was one class. So for the first, I think it was the first 2 years is when it's like that. I mean, it's like you're just bombarded, straight books. You know. So you're taking 31 credits. So now you go to class in the morning at 8 o'clock, and almost every class is mandatory. Right. So you can't be, skipping class. There's none of that. And if you are skipping class, you better be studying, you know. So you go to class from 8 in the morning to 5 p.m. Mm-hmm. After 5 p.m. is when it's time to start studying for the day, you know. Mm-hmm. So you have to be retaining for those 9 hours when you're in class. And then outside of that, imagine trying to retain for another 6, 7, 8, whatever the case is. I lived far away. Yeah. I lived about 35 minutes away from school. So for me, a lot of times I wouldn't go home. I literally would sleep in the library sometimes. Exam nights, I would sleep in my car the day before because I couldn't afford that hour wasted going
back and forth.
I feel that. When we were taking classes together last semester, we would have morning classes at like 7, and I would have to stay in his dorm.
So we would just study until like 2 in the morning, sleep for a few hours, wake up, take the exam.
I'm like, if I go back home, I'm not gonna fall asleep until like another hour and a half, and then I have to wake up way earlier, and then I'm gonna get here, and it's just.
Yeah, not only are you losing study time, you're losing sleep time and all that stuff.
Exactly.
That's like very important.
That was my biggest thing, because if I go home, there's no way I can get in my bed without taking a shower. I can't. Yeah. So it's like that's another literally eat. You have to shower. You have to, you play on your phone for a little bit. When you're comfortable, you start to waste time. Yeah. I couldn't afford that. So for me, it was like, and I also at the time, I didn't want a room here because it wasn't worth it for me. I live like 30 minutes down,
Exactly.
Yeah. Some people do move. Some people don't. So 5 o'clock, you get out. You're gonna go get you something to eat real quick. My go-to was Chipotle every single day of the first year, dude. Damn. I kid you not, bro.
Gotta get a membership.
Man, I walk in, they know my order. Yeah. Imagine. So
the usual.
Yeah, exactly. So you eat, you gotta start studying by 6 o'clock, and this is, you have an average of 2 to 3 exams a week. Yeah, so it's legitimately non-stop studying. Mm-hmm. You know? Some people, and for me, my experience might be different than a lot of other people's, because my experience was kind of motivated by fear, whereas other people's was just motivated by
whatever.
Whatever. They were there and they did good in undergrad, and they're there, whatever, masters, and they're confident, so they study a couple hours a day. For me, up until my first exam, I was sleeping maybe 4 or 5 hours a night up until the first exam, and I was studying from 5 p.m. to 1 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning. And I would go home. And people were like, dude, you're nuts. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I thought this is what we have to do. Like, this is what I was thinking.
You're already ready for that. And a lot of people aren't on that.
Walking into the first exam, I walk out. I couldn't believe it. There was not a single question that I was not able to answer and say 100% I got this. And I ended up with a 98 in that test. Yeah. I was like, so I actually did overstudy.
That's not a bad problem to have, honestly.
It's not. A lot of people were like, that was so hard, that was so tough. And I was like,
if you didn't study, then
I used to always look at those people like, that guy's he's a jerk for saying how this test was easy and that test was easy. But I'm that jerk now, and I don't know why, honestly, because I for me it was just fear. Mm-hmm. I was so afraid of failing. Mm-hmm. I was 22 years old, got so much to lose. I have no other way out, no other option outside of dental school. Mm-hmm. So it's like, if you don't do this, you're done.
You're already too far in. Like, you don't have your bachelor's, so it's not like you can jump back into something else.
And that's the difference between you and a lot of the other students, like you're saying, the master's students. I guess they kind of had something to fall back on.
So shit hits the fan, they can like go to teach at a high school or something.
But that's what ended up screwing them over, actually, was their confidence. I mean,
and just the being comfortable because they had the masters.
The second exam, me walking into it was, I started sleeping about on average 3 to 4 hours, and I kid you not. If you're listening to this and you think this is bullshit, trust me when I tell you this is not bullshit.
No, I heard.
I was sleeping from maybe 2 o'clock to 6 o'clock, getting up right back to school. There was no there's the only days that I used to sleep in, and I used to make it a thing to sleep in on Saturday mornings and Sunday mornings until I wake up.
Yeah.
You have to recuperate, you know. Besides that, it was straight studying. So you're taking all these classes. You're trying to, juggle everything out and do good in classes. The good thing is there's no extra work that you have to do, as in busy work. You're not really writing essays and doing homework.
All on you.
It's all exams. It's all exams. So second exam comes, did well. Third exam, fourth exam, whatever. As time progressed, I realized that I'm actually overstudying. There is a thing that's called overstudying, and I didn't know it until I started seeing what the hell, man? These people coming looking fresh to school. This guy's got his hair cut. This girl's got makeup on.
I haven't seen my barber in 3
You know what I'm saying? Everybody's looking fresh. Their eyes are nice, and they look healthy, well rested. And then there's me. And then there's me with puffy eyes, and I swear to God, I'm not even kidding, man. This is exactly how it was. Yeah. People would walk by, and I would always send messages to all my friends. Come to this room and wake me up when it's exam time. And they would come to the room. Wake up, it's time to go to school. And I would always have my toothbrush with me. Go brush my teeth, go right to class, take the exam, go home, sleep. Yeah. Whenever I didn't have a class, go home and sleep for an hour or two. So it kind of became my own method. That was my minimum at that point, because that's all I knew. And I didn't give myself a chance to kind of study and do what other people were doing.
Yeah. And already before that, you were going crazy in your undergrad.
Exactly.
To jump into dental school.
Exactly. I was scared.
Just kept that rhythm.
I was scared. I was scared. A lot of people don't like to admit fear, and they don't. But I could tell you, 100%, dude. I was afraid of failing, and I was so terrified by the idea that I literally would watch the lectures. I would sit down in lecture, and this is what I recommend to everybody: when you're in lecture, don't fuck around. Put your phones away. Don't take anything that distracts you. Even if you don't have an attention span of, the smartest kid in the class. Yeah. Sit down and try your best. Try to focus. Once you get out and the videos are published or posted on Canvas, because everything is recorded.
Nice.
Everything is recorded. So open the videos, sit down, rewatch the videos before every test, and transcribe every word that comes out of that doctor's mouth, because everything is fair game. Yeah, and a lot of times they include the books too. So you have textbooks, PowerPoints, and what they say in class. Even though there's some kind of overlap between all those three, but it's a lot of things to kind of
you still got to go through the material and make sure that there's no gaps.
Exactly. So you want to open the books, study them, rewatch the videos, and transcribe every word they say. Once you go into that exam, if all you did was memorize everything that was said by the professors, you're going to be guaranteed a C, which is passing. Guaranteed a C. If you sit there and do PowerPoints, you're guaranteed a B. And if you dive into that book, you're guaranteed an A. That's just how it works. That's just the name of the game in dental school. Yeah.
If you do the work or not.
It's all about work. A lot of kids who came in with those master's degrees thought that their histology background was good enough. We had 10 failures who failed. I think 10 or 11, something like that, first year. And guess how many of them were not master's students?
None of them?
Every single one of them was a master's student that failed out. So you can imagine a lot of undergrad students with just a bachelor's degree. Yeah. A lot of students who came in with masters. And those master's students are the ones that actually failed. Why? I'll tell you why. Because they went back and, for example, for me, I would transcribe everything the doctor says, write it down in conjunction with the book that she gives us, and memorize it. I'm talking about, I could tell you at what page, what corner of the page it was said, exactly the time that it was said. That's how nuts I was. Somebody else would kind of use their old notes, kind of sit there and study everything of what they were taught before, and now you're walking into somebody else's exam. I don't care who taught you before. You cannot walk into my exam studying his material. That's just not how it works.
Yeah.
You can't. You know what I mean?
Even if it's the same topics and stuff like that, like the way it's phrased, everything else is different, pretty much.
Yeah, exactly. You don't know. I mean, it's not. It's like the focus is different. What each professor focuses on. You know.
Yeah.
So a lot of the people that did fail were master students, and that's kind of a point that I like to make, is because it's like you would think that it would be undergrad students, you know.
And also a lot of your fear came from that, like that competition that you had
exactly
with those other students.
Exactly. So if going into dental school, you know, you're thinking about specializing, I could tell you that your minimum amount of studying should be the amount of hours of classes you have a day is the amount of hours you should be studying. So if you're in class 9 hours, this is no exaggeration, at least for me. But then again, I was overstudying. I was killing myself.
But I mean,
it paid off.
Results, though.
It paid off. Paid off.
Definitely paid off. Yeah.
It paid off. So I was overstudying. I think what will guarantee you a pass, kind of passing grade, without doing extraordinary, just ordinary. I would say if you studied 4 hours a day, that's enough to just pass you.
Like to get a C, and just like
that's if you go to lectures and focus on lectures.
Right.
If you don't, double that, maybe 8 hours, and then you have 16 hours left of the day. If that's enough, I mean, if you just want to pass, you know.
And is there like well, obviously you have to keep up your grades, but is it like as long as you get a C and you pass, do you keep on advancing, or?
Yeah, so if you in dental school, if you get a C, at least at Nova, that's a pass. It's considered a passing grade. Right. If you get a D, and it's not by exam, it's by class.
So course grade, like a Dan.
Exactly. So some classes are only one test, one final exam. So your
entire. Wow.
Yeah, so you're banking on one exam, you know. And sometimes you feel like you're a bad test taker from undergrad, and you just, you know, you're not up to par with everybody else in their level. But I can honestly assure you, when you get into that, like, I don't care what graduate program you're going to, when you get into that graduate program, believe me when I tell you, you are at the same level as everybody else, or better. I mean, if you think you're better, you're gonna end up flopping, and I can tell you that for sure. Because when you're too confident, it gets in the way of your studying habits, and it kind of screws you over in that. But if you thought in undergrad, I was barely able to do that, how am I gonna do this? Trust me when I could tell you, from somebody who had very little background in the sciences, it's doable. All you have to do is have the drive and motivation, and if you have that, I think the best motivation is fear, to be honest. If you're afraid, trust me, when that adrenaline kicks in and you're sitting that day before the test, literally glued to the book, whatever it is you're studying.
Yeah, we know.
It's a different ball game. It's a different ball game, but it's doable to anybody. And I tell this, people tell me, oh, not everybody could do dental school, and I tell them, no, you're full of shit. Anybody could do dental school, because all you have to do is work hard.
Yeah,
that's all you have to do.
That's how I feel about too. Even the classes that we're taking, people will like change majors and stuff because they failed this class and this class, and it's like they're just like, oh, I'm not, like, that's not my ability. But like when it comes to science and stuff like this, it's anybody's ability to put in the work.
Yeah, exactly.
The sole thing that I think I'm doing well in our classes is putting in the work and studying and doing that extra, and not just showing up to class and leaving, because that's what people. You can't just like do that and expect to get a good grade. anywhere.
Be like, I see people in physics that they're literally like drawing in class or like just doing anything but what you're supposed to do. You know, and like writing down, and even, bro. So like this physics exam, the professor let us bring like a cheat sheet with all of the formulas written down. He's like, you could write whatever you want on that page as long as it fits on that one page front and back.
You best believe I would have wrote the entire course.
I wrote my whole notebook. I wrote it on that one page. I wrote all the examples. Wrote every freaking formula that I came across, and then I got one question wrong on the test. And then there's other people that got like 8. I'm like, how do you get 8 questions wrong on an open book test? Basically, like.
I'll tell you, people don't know. People always underestimate themselves. Like you mentioned failing a class or two. If you were to tell me back in the days that, yo, Mohammed, in the future you're gonna be doing super well in dental school, even though you failed biology 1 and chemistry. Like, I look back at that now and I'm like, this is crazy, because I took the classes that I've taken here: histology, anatomy, microbiology, anatomy lab, neuroanatomy, biochemistry, and I can't remember the first semester, but those were practically the first semester classes, and I couldn't pass biology 1. You know what I mean? Yeah. And the only difference from that time to this time was, and I mean this 100%. This is the only difference that it was. It wasn't time. It was me putting in the time. It's not the amount of time that progressed and I matured and I'm smarter. No, it's the amount of time that I put in to prepare for that test. That's all it takes. If you do that, and I kid you not, no matter who you are, no matter how, disadvantaged you think you are, no matter how slow you think you are at learning, there is nothing to stop you. There's people in my class that barely speak English, and they kill it. How? Better than a lot of other how? Because they put in the time. That's all it takes. That's all it takes. Let's talk about kind of like what's important to allow you to have that time to study, which is time management. I think time management is one of the most important factors that you, no matter what program you get into, if you can't manage your time well, you're gonna flop. Simple as that. Because you have 9 hours of the day already gone just from sitting in class. You only have 15 more hours throughout the day. Let's say you're gonna be getting a good amount of sleep, 5-6 hours.
Yeah, that's like amazing sleep.
That's amazing sleep. You're left with how many? About 9 hours throughout the day. You still gotta eat. You still gotta shower. You still gotta clean your apartment, whatever the case is. You gotta drive. You know what I mean? So you don't have too much time, especially if you're trying to maximize the amount of studying time. You have to be able to manage your time well. And that, with that being said, you can't. This is the do's and don'ts in dental school. You can't party weekdays. You can't. Weekends, some people do it. I've never partied. Point blank. Dental school, no party. Friday nights, I was that one nerd studying in the library, and I never consider myself to be a nerd. But that's just how people, like, even to today, somebody today asked me, he's like, "Yo, are you still sleeping in the library?" And I'm like, "Nah, dude, those days are long gone," because they are. There comes a time where you just get so much more efficient. What took me before my first day of dental school, my first semester of dental school, 4 hours to study, will take me an hour now. It's all like now, especially now, because I've conditioned myself to I've hardwired my brain to just absorb, study and absorb. Now I don't study more than 4 hours a test. Right. I'm still doing phenomenal for my own standards. Yeah. Per my own standards. Of course. I think that to what I think is good, I'm doing good. Not compared to anybody else. Driving to school, eating, sleeping, all of those,
They're important.
real talk, they're important, but you'll feel like they're a waste of time too. You know, you feel like you're drowning, and every second you can, you're trying to get it out of you got to cut time from your sleep. All right, now I got to speed because I got to cut time from my driving because I got to save some time to get to class. Or, you know what, I'm eating, but God damn it, I can't eat a full Chipotle meal right now. I'll eat half of it right now, and I'll eat the rest later when I get hungry, because you can't afford to get the itis and fall asleep. Because if you get the itis and fall asleep when you have a test the next day, you know, when you eat a big meal.
Yeah.
But that happened to me today. I went home, I forgot the mics and the laptop and stuff, and then I went home, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna eat, gonna pick up the stuff, and then I'm gonna go to the gym. But I ate, and I got the itis. I got so sleepy, I had to take a nap.
Exactly.
That's everybody.
Exactly. That was one of the first things I learned in dental school. You have to eat just enough.
Yeah.
And then before you go to sleep, eat. It's fine. But if you're going to study, do not put yourself in a carbs overload.
Yeah.
You're going to screw yourself.
Let me ask you drink coffee?
A lot of people were super addicted to coffee.
I'm super addicted to coffee, definitely.
Yeah, me too.
I wasn't. So, I mean, again, you'll laugh and say, you know, this kid's probably like BSing, but I'm telling you that people used to come to me like, yo, like, it seems like you're on cocaine. What the fuck do you do?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know what to tell. This is the craziest part to me when I think about it is I still believe it was all fear. Just the fear of not being able to, you know, live up to the standards that were set by me, were set by Dr. Lippman onto me, that you have to do this, that, and that.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't used to drink coffee like that. Once in a blue moon, I'll have like they call them a cortadito or something like that.
Yeah.
It's like a double shot. But I've never drank coffee in the morning just to kind of wake up. It doesn't wake me up.
Yeah. I don't drink it in the morning because I don't want to like not drink it and then get sluggish in the morning. But I'll drink it pretty much every day at like noon.
Yeah.
And then like when I go to study, like there's a clear difference when I'm studying without coffee or when I'm studying with coffee.
Really?
It's like
It is a drug.
Yeah,
it is a drug.
No, it's like I'm hauling ass when I got coffee on me. I'm grinding out work compared to just like.
And I'm Cuban also, so it's like part of the culture. So it's just like, I guess I've conditioned my body, you know, just because like it is a drug and you develop a dependency on it. So just like after I eat, I'll drink coffee, and then that like kind of counterbalances the itis. So it's like for example, today I didn't drink coffee after I ate, so I had to take a nap. But
does that make a difference? I mean, I used to fall asleep beautifully when I was on coffee.
Yeah.
I never had a problem.
Bro, my family, like they're like crackheads like that. They'll make coffee before going to sleep.
Yeah. It's not. It doesn't phase me.
At a certain point, it just stops phasing you. But
Yeah. No, it doesn't give me energy like that. It's just like, I guess my body is just like asking for the.
Does it help you
caffeine.
focus?
Yeah, it's more for the focusing than the energy, really.
Yeah.
It does actually stimulate parts of your brain that help you. That's why a lot of people, you go into these people here, the juice blends, the coffee makers, they make so much money off of HPD students,
I bet.
grad students. Yeah, I mean, here's one thing: you have to have something that you, as a student, as a dental student, something that you can always go back to, where you're not gonna have a breakdown. Something that's your like
your rock,
kind of like something that'll help you cope with things, right? Some people, for them, that's a dog. Some people, for them, that's family. Some people, for them, that's
What's that for you?
For me,
Studying more.
No,
Sleeping
no.
in his car. That's what it is.
No. Call me crazy. My biggest support system. That's the word I was looking for. Your support system. I barely used to see my parents, so it wasn't them, and I barely used to see my girl, so it wasn't her. My biggest support system was, and everybody has their own.
Right.
Mine was religion. As crazy as it sounds, for me it was like.
Crazy.
For me, it was like whenever I'm feeling like I'm about to like have a breakdown, which I thank God I never actually felt like I was breaking down, but you know, you feel like I'm stressed.
Yeah.
All right,
Gotta pray.
do something. That was mine. And everybody that had a to-go-to support system ended up just fine. There's a lot. I mean, so many kids in our class. You see a lot of people walking around the campus, and they look, you know, super fresh and nice looking and healthy. A lot of people have breakdowns. You don't know what happens behind closed doors. People have mental breakdowns to the point where they don't function. They can't get out of bed. This is in dental school I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It has that effect on some people. So you got to make sure that if you know, anything that's going to distract you or cause pain, let's just say you're in a relationship, make sure if that's your to-go-to system, make sure it's there for you. If your family is your to-go-to support system, make sure that they're there for you. Whatever that is, make sure that you have it, because if you don't, it's not uncommon for somebody to have a complete mental breakdown.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just like it's, you kind of expect it because you're just giving up so much of your life. You know, you're giving up your social life. You're giving up basically the only life that matters at the moment is your academic life. Right. There's about 15 people in my class that have kids. They see him maybe 3 hours a week. I was talking to one girl yesterday, and she was like, "Yeah, I see my son once a week. My husband takes care of him Monday and Tuesday, and his grandma takes care of him, or her husband's mom takes care of the baby for Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, and she gets him on Saturday, a couple hours, sends him back, goes to study." You know, so you have to be able to. I mean, especially like a mom, that's kind of tough.
Yeah, no.
You know what I mean?
Do it, then...
Exactly. And she's pregnant again, and she's doing it.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, it's doable. All you have to do is put in the work. That's all that's required. Put in the goddamn work, and I promise you'll see results. If you don't do it, you're not going to see results. You know, there's a saying that I used to work at. I don't know if I mentioned this last time, but I worked at a convenience store growing up. Did I mention this?
I don't think so. You told us you would work like 16 hours or something like that in the weekend.
So I was working since I was 12 years old at this one store, and the owner of that store kind of like, we formed like a relationship where he was kind of like my mentor growing up, and he would be the guy that always told me, "Stay in school. This shit out here is no good for you. There's nothing out here." It's kind of kept me on the right track, you know. And he wrote one day above the fridge when you're talking about 12 years old. I was stocking the fridge, the cooler, the freezer, the shelves. He writes on top of the fridge in big letters, "You pay now, you play later. You play now, you'll pay later." And it stuck with me. And I was like, I'm going to pay now. And I'm going to damn for sure play later. You know what I mean? So give up, you know, whatever it is, the distraction that's there right now. If it's fear, I'm telling you, fear is going to help you.
Yeah.
Just do it. Apply. Is it, you know, are you the type that doesn't like to study? Trust me, nobody likes to study. Give up that bullshit excuse. Get in there, do what you got to do, get the requirements in, spend 2 years of your life now preparing for dental school, and take the time out to actually better your resume to get in. And then after that, you're in dental school and you finish, and guess what? You're in one of the top earning jobs in America. You are in the top profession in America. You are in one of the top lifestyle professions in America. I mean, it's one of the best. You know what I mean? You get to work specific amount of hours, and you don't worry about
it's like
after hours. You don't worry about that.
You're not on call.
You're not on call. You can, you know what? Hey, you know, Betty, 2 weeks later, for a whole 2 weeks, I want you to not book any patients because I'm going to go on vacation. Me and my wife and my kids, or me and my girlfriend, or me and my parents, whatever the case is. I want to go on vacation. Don't book no patients those 2 weeks. Okay. You're the doctor, so you make the calls. You make the shots. And that's a good ass feeling. You know what I mean? I would have never thought that I would have somebody calling me doctor. Patients. But it's real, and then you get to a point where it just grows onto, and you're like, you know what? You should give yourself some recognition because you work so hard to get to the point where you are today.
Mm-hmm.
But it's all for a greater purpose. One day I'm gonna be able to say, and that one day is coming very soon. A year and a half, I'm out of the school. When that day comes, it's like
Finally,
I did it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I did
Went
it.
through the trenches and everything.
I did it. You know, there's a guy in second year now. He's 56 years old, and he's doing it.
Yeah.
So for the next 30-year-old that goes and tells you that he or she is old, tell them go fuck yourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a guy in my class that's 38 years old in my class.
Mhm.
He has 3 kids and a wife, and he's doing it.
Bro, I mean, when you think about it, like, you still got a hell of a long way to go before you retire.
Exactly.
Like, even if you're 40, you still got 25 years. Like, what are you gonna do for those 25 years?
And you just accomplish something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You accomplish something in life. One of my biggest motivating factors, besides, or let me not say motivating factors, but one of the biggest reasons why I wanted to do something professional was because I wanted my future, you know, like generations or my kids in the future, and after that to kind of start a cycle where it's important to be a professional.
It's like the standard.
Exactly, that's the
Yeah.
standard. It's important to be a professional. We don't have that
Yeah.
in my family. We didn't. For us, it was like we just broke all our lives. That it was about working, hustling hard, working your body and not your mind.
Yeah.
Feel that.
I mean, I think we all really come from like blue collar. Like my family, my parents are immigrants. My parents are immigrants. Like it's kind of like there needs to be like a step up from like that, because it's a completely different standard.
Oh yeah.
For my parents, the standard wasn't to go to college. It was to make money
Work
any way
hard.
you could. My uncles, they ran food trucks. That's what their business was. And then they took that money and invested in buildings and stuff like that. So like it's just kind of like building from there. Their kids, even their kids who are like my cousins that are older, their standard wasn't even to go to college. So most of them are working, you know, blue collar jobs, and that's fine. But then it's like it comes to like the further generation, where like all of my brothers are like expected to go to college. They told my family told me there's no other way.
Good.
And
That's
it's
how
like,
it should.
you know, it's like stepping up, because you don't want to be in that same spot.
Nah, man.
And
There's
it's like
nothing
a lot
out
of people
there.
is like that too.
There's nothing out there. I tell you, I lived in the ghetto before dental school, before Nova, before high school.
Mm-hmm.
I lived a long time ago. And growing up, I seen so many different kinds of people.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not talking about races. I'm talking about just lifestyles and personalities. And you know, I've met the single mom who works, you know, 12 hours a day, 7 days a week to feed her kids. I've met the dad has immigrant families and he's supporting and working every single day, sending money to his family overseas. I've met drug dealers who walk in the street and this is what they do for a living because they think that it's the right way to feed their kids. There's so many different kinds of, and when I think about all these different people, like the difference it could have made just to get an education. And a lot of times it's not within reach. A lot of times you can't just go and say, you know what, this guy should have gotten an education.
Yeah.
No.
It's
Some
like all
people-
different
some people-
circumstantial.
Exactly. Some people definitely have their excuses. Some people definitely have their reasons why they couldn't.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're a kid and you have, you know, support, I don't want to say mom and dad, but if you have support, if you're a girlfriend and your boyfriend's supporting you, if you're a wife and your husband's supporting you,
Mm-hmm.
what the hell is there not to do it for? What's the reason that you're not going to do it for? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's just no reason. I don't see a reason. Especially if you want to one day, you know, get the gratification of being a professional, making good money, living a good lifestyle, being, you know, relatively well respected in your community, wherever you go, because that's, you know, people, you know, if you say, oh, you know, what do you do? Oh, you know, I'm a professor at a university. Well, that's awesome. You're a professor.
Right.
It's cool. What do you do? Oh, I manage a Popeyes on 57th Street and 2nd Avenue. And they'll be like, oh, that's cool. That's nice. Yeah, yeah. So you kind of work with, like, you kind of working hard and, you know, it just, there's no,
Right.
I mean, not to knock them off either.
Of course.
Because my whole family comes from that working background.
Mm-hmm.
But my main focus, and I think anybody who is going through that would appreciate what I'm saying, it's go, if you have the chance to get an education and do something good, it doesn't have to be dentistry.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
the less dentists out there, the better it is for me, because
The more money.
the more money, the more patience, you know. But in all seriousness, if you have the chance to, and you don't do it, and your reason is that it's too late, or you're too old, or this and that, and you're gonna resort to doing something that you don't love for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
I hate to say this, but I don't even want to say it, but it's just, you suck. You know what I mean?
No.
You're depriving yourself of your dream.
Yeah.
You're
And
depriving yourself of something awesome.
Yeah, and then really the difference is like you're saying, like our parents, it's like they didn't have a choice. So if you see like people in our circumstance that have the ability to better themselves and go through that route of like getting that education and then don't, like I've seen that so many times. People who
like,
come
why
from
not?
Wealthy backgrounds. I know a kid
Yeah, I was gonna
who
say we have
dropped
friends
out. You're like, and it's like, what excuse do you have for that?
Like a lot of these
Absolutely
kids that
no
are given
excuse.
everything. They're given everything, and they just assume life is gonna come at them with the same luck that they've had so far, but they don't realize that all of that comes from the hard work that their parents already put in. You get me? If they, maybe they know that their parents are gonna give them money. Like, listen, here, this is my money. I'm gonna give it to you. You invest it into something else. Maybe they know that they have that security. But for people, you know, like us that don't have that benefit of just like, hey, Dad, give me $500,000. I'm gonna buy a building and make that investment. You know, like for me, a big motivation is like show my parents that all the bullshit that they had to go through is like worth something.
Damn right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's that's the reality of things. Because you once you make that sacrifice and you succeed, you know. And I don't want to talk like I'm already successful. No, I'm not successful yet. You know, but it's a process, and no matter where you are, and no matter where you are, at what point in your life that you determine that you don't want to do this because you're too old, or you know you're not smart enough. Let's get that smart enough idea throw it out the window. That's not true, because I was not smart. You literally only need to have one thing, and that is hard work. If you can put in the work, you're guaranteed success. That's all it takes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So let's throw that out the window. Now, too old or too young? People who tell me it's too old, I just recently, a 17-year-old kid had a heart attack and died. Really? Was he too young?
Yeah.
Or was he too old? That dentist, the reason why you think you're too old is because the class average is 28 years old. By the way, a lot of people who think they're too old, I just want to reiterate and say that the class average to the entering dental first year is 28 years old. So even if you're if you know statistics, if you're within the outlier,
Right.
you're still not old. I mean, if you're 31 years old, down to 25 years old,
Yeah.
You make up the average.
you're within that
And that can
circle.
be applied to anything.
Anything in
like
life.
it's, we're talking about dentistry because that's what we want to do. That's what you're pursuing. But like, really anything, you're never like, if you don't take that opportunity to go ahead and better suit yourself, it's not going to happen.
It's not gonna happen.
Regardless of the situation.
It's not gonna happen. Once you get into dental school and you find your rhythm, and you get those wheels rolling, there's nothing to stop you.
Yeah. The first
But
step
yourself.
is the biggest step.
But yourself. And the minute you walk through those doors where your first class in dental school, you'll actually feel so accomplished, and you'll feel like, you know what, I've made it this far. This is only fuel to go even further. That's the best part about this.
I've heard this saying, or like, I don't know, I just heard somebody say it. I don't know, maybe you can confirm it or not for me. They say like, once you pass your first year of dental school, like you can almost say that you're gonna become a dentist. Like
I agree.
If you're able to pass that first year.
I agree with that. First year, if you pass that, you could pass anything. And it's kind of more going back to, if you had the work ethic to pass first year, basically there's nothing to stop you.
Right. Yeah.
You could still, flop,
Oh, of course.
but there's just nothing to stop you.
Yeah, I want to say too that like for people listening, it's not that like it gets easier after first year. Like that's not what we're saying. It's that first year is a determinant. Like if you can do that, then you can keep up that and if you can keep up that work ethic, then you'll be able to make it through. Mm-hmm. Not in the sense that like the first year is the easiest and then you're cruising for the rest of the time.
Exactly. It becomes normal to you.
Yeah.
Just the hard work
becomes.
Because
if you put in that work, in that level of work, like you're gonna get used to it, and then that's gonna be like the standard.
Yeah. Hard work is your currency for success in this life. I don't care what profession you go into. Listen, again, I kind of want to push this onto the people who think that they're not, capable of it or they're too old. There's a proverb that goes, "Ain't nothing coming to a sleeper but a dream." So if all you're doing is sleeping in life, not necessarily sleeping, on a pillow.
Like physically, yeah.
If all you're doing is sleeping on everything, you're only gonna dream. Because there's people who sleep and dream, and there's people who get shit done, succeed in what they want to do, and achieve those dreams.
It's like the people who talk about doing something, or the people who's out there doing it. In the time that you're talking about it, somebody else has finished.
Exactly. Exactly. That's just the way of life, no matter what profession you go into.
Yeah.
So the next time somebody tells you that they can't do it or they're too old, give them a smack across the face. Trust me. Wake them up.
Yeah, not for sure.
Slow.
Backhand them.
Bro, so I wanted to ask you this because, I heard you mention that you had a girlfriend or you have a girlfriend, or your fiance.
Well, my wife now.
Your wife now.
Yeah.
Congrats, man.
Thank you.
How difficult is it to maintain a relationship, through dental school?
So, it's definitely. I don't want to say difficult. It is difficult for one reason, because you're not going to be hanging out as often.
Right.
You're not going to be with each other like you are when you're an undergrad. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? For me, I can speak for myself. My fiance at the time was in optometry school. So the times that I was studying, she was studying.
Yeah, she understands.
She understands. And if she didn't, trust me, it was school above everything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There was nothing to stop. And that goes to the same. I would tell my own sister the same thing. Hey, school over everything. I don't care who it is. You know what I mean?
Right.
So you can manage it. It's definitely doable. A lot of people maintain their relationships in school, but there has to be that understanding from your partner that it's not gonna be as lovely as it once was. We might go out once every 3 weeks if you wanna, be one of those guys that
takes out the girl or
and just kind of. For me, I didn't do that.
Yeah, I feel you.
I was studying all the time. For some people, they do, and a lot of people do well. A lot of people don't study as much as I did. They go out, they party, they have their girlfriends, and they do really well.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is it's all about what works for you too.
Exactly. So you can manage it for sure, but is it going to be you're going to have the best times of your life during your dental school years? No, for sure no. You're sacrificing. There's got to be a sacrifice. What do you think the listeners are asking or wanting to ask?
Really, these questions about what would make you successful in dental school. That's something that we really the biggest theme that we were talking about this whole time. It's just the hard work aspect, really drilling that in, because that is the biggest thing.
That is the biggest thing.
Oh, so actually, I wanted to ask you. I have my interview scheduled for November 6th, and I don't know. Is there anything big like that you think I should
Where?
Here for Nova. For dental school.
Nova is, you'll have the best interview in any other school. Nova is just the most relaxing interview that you'll ever go to, just because when you go, I was told the day of my interview when I was sitting down in front of the dean, she told me at the time, she's like, listen, I don't care what's in this file.
Right.
You passed this part. We like you on paper. Now we want to see you as a person. And if you are arrogant, they're giving you the boot.
Yeah.
If you're cocky, they'll give you the boot. Just be down to earth. Be humble. Be yourself.
Right.
Don't act like you're something that you're not. You know what I mean? Like, there was this kid that I was interviewing with. He had a 4.0. He had research. He was this outstanding student who just killed everything. He gets waitlisted, and I got waitlisted. He ends up getting rejected, and I ended up getting a spot. Why?
Yeah.
They see so many students that they interview. You know what I mean? And they see through the bullshit. They see, if you want to act like you're the smartest person here, and trust me, you're offending them.
Right.
They don't want you.
Yeah, like they've seen a lot of smart students.
They've seen smart students.
But that's the thing. It's like that's the baseline.
Exactly.
Anybody who got it to that point already,
you
know that they're smart.
Good on paper.
Yeah.
You're good on paper. All you have to do is nail that in-person interview, and that's the easiest part, especially at Nova. I mean, at Nova, you're just talking to them. Literally, you dictate the conversation. You want to talk about purses? Trust me, the guy deans, they buy their wives a lot of purses. You want to talk about football? They love football. You want to talk about golf? They'll talk about golf with you.
Right.
No matter what it is, they'll talk with you. It's a formality. It's kind of like get to knowing you.
Right.
Other schools are pretty harsh. I mean, there's like some schools that literally go in and dissect every single thing that you write in your essay. It's fine. I mean, personally, the interview process for me was like, it was the reason why I chose Nova. Above the fact that I was kind of like behind with a lot of things. The way that I was like greeted at Nova, till today I say there's not a single interview better than Nova. You know what I mean? So other schools are different, but you want to be professional.
Of course.
Definitely professional in the way you speak. A hint that I like to give everybody that I kind of help get into dental school is that, listen, always make yourself seem inferior to the person you're talking to. Just talk to them, right? Be yourself. But
like submissive, like
call him sir. Call her ma'am. You know what I mean?
of course.
Of course. Tell her that. Yeah, absolutely. You're right. When you're talking to her, make him feel special. You do that, you'll put an imprint. Okay, this kid is making me feel, they just, they feel like respected. And when they feel respected, they like you. People tend to like people who respect them. I don't like somebody who doesn't respect me.
Of course.
You know what I mean? I'm sure you don't, and you don't either. So if you respect them and kind of go out your way to show them that respect, do it. A lot of people think that leaving a thank you note is kissing ass. I don't call it kissing ass. I call it politicking. It's not ass kissing, it's politicking.
Right.
You got to be politically correct. You got to be political, I'm sorry. So write a thank you note, because all you're doing is reminding her that, hey, you interviewed me. So when she looks back, I appreciate it.
It's the same thing, like if you're going for a job, like something that my parents taught me. You go, so like most of the time, like today, it's like online. You send an application online. My parents told me, you go in with your resume, say hello, my name is Jon-Michael, whoever. You give them your resume. They should they're not going to chase after you. You're the one who wants the job.
Exactly.
So you need to go and go the extra mile, because let's say they have 50 applicants. How many of them are going in, introducing themselves in person, putting their resume on, even if they have your resume probably, but handing them a physical copy, shaking their hand, like that's the stuff that gets you.
Exactly.
And
we talked about this last time.
Yeah.
We mentioned about, we stressed, I don't think I've ever stressed it more to somebody, that get your ass and go to the office of the dean and go talk to him. Go and bombard him. Remind him. Yo, just remember me. That's all I want you to do, so that when you flip through those, and I guarantee you, humans are so predictable. Humans are so predictable. They will always go with familiarity. Always. If this kid has a 4.0, research, did this, and that, but I don't remember what the hell he looks like. But this kid has a 3.5, solid DT, okay, never done research, but I remember him. God damn it, this kid looks so familiar.
Yeah.
there's something about him that I don't remember.
It's a bond.
And they,
I
in
remember.
their head, there's probably a subconscious thing where it's like, if I remember him, it's probably for a good reason.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that's like part of, people's intuition or whatever you want to call it. Like, they have like a feeling about you.
Yeah.
And there's a reason for that. It's because you put yourself out there and you
Exactly.
follow through. And
Exactly. That's the most important part. I mean, even after the interview, your interview is not landing you that spot.
Right.
You want to get that spot, you better go. And you guys are not in the dual program, are you?
Yeah, we
You
both
are.
in the dual program.
So you still have to go through the process of like application or no?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
we
the
have
thing
to
that they
apply.
stress in the program too, because they don't want you thinking you get in and that's it, because it's not the case.
Yeah. So then your main thing is going to be just this question is more for somebody who's not in the dual program,
Right.
because it kind of applies to them more. Yeah. Once you interview, get your ass and go to the office, at least once every 2 weeks, bi-weekly.
Mm.
Make it a thing.
And to the interview, did you take like a physical resume? Or
No.
no? You just like
They have your application printed. It's in front of them. You go, they give you a packet that has some information and pens and stuff
okay.
like that.
So
Yeah.
you didn't take anything yourself?
No.
You just showed up.
No, yeah.
All right, cool. Because I was a little bit worried. I'm like, damn, am I supposed to take anything?
Yeah, no. You want to dress professional.
Of course. Yeah.
You want to dress in suit and tie, guy and girl.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what it is. You want to dress, look clean your beard. Obviously, if you have like a long beard, shorten it dramatically. Shorten it. Hair. Make sure that it's like
Like a professional.
Neat. Exactly. You have to look like a professional. You know what I mean? Like I have never seen a dental student with spiky hair or a mohawk or something. You won't find them.
Yeah.
They don't get accepted. You know what I mean? So you want to look professional. That's what they look for. And be confident, man. They're another human being in front of you. That's all it is. You know what I mean? It's like people think that was a good one. People think that I'm terrified. This is the dean of this dental school. Come on, man. This guy's got a wife. He's got kids. He's got grandchildren your age that he understands, and he's another human being. And if you realize that, and you're just yourself, and you're down to earth, and you're a good guy, good shit will happen to you, man. It's just it's the law of life, and I promise you, that shit is real.
What importance do you think the DAT score has on like the overall application, like their value as an applicant?
So the DAT in itself, for me at least, was everything, because I had failed a couple classes. Didn't even have, upon applying, I didn't have all my requirements, because remember, I was still taking biochemistry when I got my acceptance, so I didn't even have those requirements. But the DAT for me was the biggest aspect.
Yeah, it was like the
Yeah. So if it wasn't for my DAT, I would not have gotten accepted. I don't think I would have. You kind of want to. You kind of want to. Yeah, you want to kill the DAT. The average DAT going into last year's class of 2022 was a 22.5 or 22.6 DAT. You know what I mean? So, if you're at that, or even if you're in your 20s, you have a good chance. If you're in your 19s, retake it.
yeah.
It's very tough to get in with a 19. But if you have a solid 20 and you have a good resume to kind of like solidify that and back that up, you're good.
Yeah, I had a friend who got a 20, and she actually talked to Dr. Littman, and that's what he said, is as long as you have other stuff to, I guess, not to make up for like a 20, because a 20 is not bad by any means, but if you have good solid grades, you're good involvement, then you have nothing to worry about.
Right. Because it's all standards. Yeah, 20 is not bad, but it's a standardized exam for a reason.
Yeah, and it's a balance
you're
between
compared
everything, too.
to every other applicant.
Yeah.
So when you have, people coming in, and there's 3,000 applicants, and 550 of them have 23s. Like, yeah, 20 is not bad, but it's definitely not as good as a 23.
Yes.
So don't feel discouraged. Just make sure that you strengthen your application.
Yeah, well,
You have some time.
It's like a balance between, okay, you have like research, or you have your grades, you have your DAT, you have anything else that you're involved in. It's like
Extracurriculars.
you can't have a 25 and then nothing,
Exactly.
like mediocre grades and like everything else, because they're just gonna be like, okay, you did good on one test.
That doesn't prevent the test.
And then vice versa. You can't have like everything, or like one, you know, like your grade's really, really good, and then shit, the AT score, no involvement.
It's a balance. There's a balance.
Absolutely.
The DAT is very important, man.
Yeah, of course.
But don't get discouraged. It's as simple as, you know, it's tough, but retaking it, you're doing better, you're fine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If I was an undergrad right now,
right,
I would want somebody to tell me, you know what? I promise you, you're gonna make it one day. You're gonna make it. Just put in the time and don't give up. Persistence is key. We went over this last time, but I want to stress it again. Don't give up to whoever's listening, you know? And you always got to remind yourself too, don't give up, because as hard as it seems today, tomorrow's always easier. It's always better. And it's just like, everybody has, you know, if you want to consider life a big ass piece of pie, everybody gets a piece. How large your piece is, you determine that. You got to fight for that piece. If you don't fight for it, guess what? There's Bill and Bob next door who are going to be fighting harder than you, and they're going to get some of your piece. So no, fight for it. You know, struggle. That's what life is. It's not a fucking, you know, it's not meant to be sweet and beautiful. Yeah, you'll get there one day, but you got to go through the struggles and the trenches to actually get to that point. You know what I mean? So no matter how much hard work, and I always tell this to my wife, and she hates me when I tell this to her. And I'm like, listen, she'll complain to me. Oh, but you know, I have to study this, and that. And I'm like, listen, you signed up for this. Don't feel bad for yourself. Do not feel bad for yourself. All right? There's somebody out there working 10 times harder than you.
Yeah. There's always going to be someone working.
Once you drill that into your head, that don't feel bad for yourself. You signed up for this. You signed up. You wanted to be in the top 1% of America. That shit doesn't come easy. You got to work for that.
Yeah, for sure.
You know what I mean? You want to be somebody that people respect. That shit doesn't come easy.
Yeah, it's a really good way to think about it. Like, you signed up for this.
Don't feel bad for yourself.
Any slack.
Don't cut yourself any slack. And the moment you do, you're going to start going downhill. You start feeling bad for yourself. Oh, you know what? I deserved a break. No. You don't deserve nothing.
Yeah. Especially being somebody that's like undergrad or even like in your position. You don't deserve anything. You're not there yet.
You're not there yet.
And even once you're there, you're not the best in the room. Like
Exactly.
You know? It's like
there's always something
like
bigger to work for.
Right.
Yeah. A lot of people don't get that.
The complainers, by the way,
they're the ones who fall off.
Always. Swear to God. Everybody in my class that's complained were failures. Not in life, I'm talking about the only people that kept complaining were the people who kept failing exams.
Yeah.
But God damn it, this test was super hard, this test was that, and it's like, nah.
And it's always like the professor's fault.
Yeah, the funniest to me is when they defer it to it's the professor's fault. They're not a good teacher. That's my favorite thing to hear from somebody, that they're not a good teacher. Because so many times people told me that person's not a good teacher, that's why I did bad. And I don't say anything, but I took that teacher, I did good. It's not, you know, it's not the professor.
It's hard work. It's your work ethic.
Because honestly, you're going to run into a shit professor. I've run into 5 shit professors in 5 of my classes, you know? Like, it's just like what you make of it. You might have to study the book straight up, the entire course. But that's just what you got to do.
Yeah. Don't feel bad for yourself. Don't cut yourself any slack.
Yeah.
Because the difference between ordinary and extraordinary is that little extra. If you put that little extra in, you jump from ordinary to extraordinary. It's as simple as that. I don't think it gets any more cutthroat than that, but that's the truth.
No, that's true, yeah. Like even in our Bio 1 class, well, I had her, but she was like a mutual friend of ours. You know, no names, obviously. But, you know, it's just every test would be like, oh my God, I studied so much for this test, and I still got a C. I got a D.
You probably didn't study that much then,
It's
right?
it's like, yo, like, I can reflect on myself and say, like, I could have probably studied more. And, like, you know, I keep on improving my scores, and every time I'm like, damn, I could have studied even more than what I studied last time. It's like, there's absolutely no way that you go down in scores and you're saying that you're studying more, like it's just the math doesn't add up. Either you're lying to yourself, or you're just saying that.
Or
to
you
make
need
yourself
help.
feel good.
Or sometimes there's nothing wrong with asking for help.
Yeah, of course.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Yep.
I need help, and then that's another
That's a big thing too.
take. Yeah.
I know a lot of people that just will sit in class, not get anything, and they won't ask the professor. They won't go to the office hours. It's like at that point, it's on you. It's completely on you.
Exactly.
And there's also other people that just don't know how to study, like effectively. They'll sit there and read the whole book and not obtain any of it.
Reading doesn't do shit.
Yeah.
You can't read for a test. You have to memorize.
Yeah.
That's what people don't understand. People are like, yeah, I read it 5 times. It's like, and what is reading it 5 times going to do for you? You might remember a couple things, but you have to sit there. And you know what? A nucleus contains the DNA of the cell. A nucleus, you just have to repeat it. You have to repeat it to yourself. And once you memorize it, it's familiarity becomes so much easier. But if you say, yeah, a nucleus contains the DNA of the cell. Oh, the mitochondria is also the powerhouse of the cell. Oh, but that's awesome. And then you have the Golgi apparatus. And then, oh, okay. Wait, what was that? What was that? Ribosome? What did it do? I remember I read it yesterday.
You just mix everything up at that
You didn't
point.
memorize
I
it.
remember I read it. It was on there.
You gotta memorize.
Yeah.
It's the biggest key in dental school. That's one thing to remember, actually. You have to memorize. There's no reading.
Yeah, people get upset when they're like, oh yeah, like this test doesn't test like your intelligence or your ability to like whatever. They're like, it's only memorization. It's like, well, yeah, I mean, it is what it is. So now that you know that, like, apply it.
Exactly. Now that you know it, apply it. And a lot of people won't.
Yeah.
I
They
just
prefer
can't
to
do
just
it.
stay mad about the fact that it's like
I just
testing
can't do
your
it.
memorization skills, but
I just can't do it.
Yeah.
You'll hear that all the time. I just can't do it. And you're like, all right. Well, somebody else will happily take a piece of your pie. So.
Yeah.
for sure.
For one of our orgo, we had orgo too, and I thought this professor was so bad, and her PowerPoints were bad. It was the book PowerPoints. She didn't write anything ever. She would talk, say word for word off the PowerPoint, move on. Someone found her test bank. It was like 200 questions per chapter.
And then the test was like 15 questions, or like 20, something.
Wow.
So what we did was we did 600 questions per per test.
Per test.
And at the end of the 600 questions, we'd understand everything because we'd done 600 questions. Like there's no, it's like.
And they would probably, half of them would probably pop up on the exam.
Oh, all of them. Every single one that we saw in the exam was in the packet that we did 600 questions for, and there was other people that had that and didn't utilize that. You know, it's like you have that, and
that's crazy.
They would do like every 3 questions or something like that. It's like, bro, if you have every single possibility that could come out,
take it.
Study every single. Because one of those 2 that you skipped from the I'll study every 3. That's the one that's gonna come out. The one
and
that's skipped.
That's what even happened. I think the first exam, we were like, oh, we'll do odds. That's why we'll get the information of like the types of questions, and then we'll be able to good. And we did like decent.
We did good.
But I think I got like 80 something in the first test, and I'm like, nah, like I want this A. When we did every test after that, we did 600 questions per test. It was great forever,
but it paid off.
And then the night before the exam and the day before that, we do all of them again.
Yeah, we would do the 600 questions, and then we would go over the 600 questions again, and like, all right, do you remember what this one is? Do you remember why it's like that? All right, and then
that's the thing too, is we would go through why, because they were mostly multiple choice.
That's how you should do it too.
Yeah, and it's good when you have somebody like we were studying together, so you can kind of rationalize, and then like you get a different perspective, because like there were so many ones that if I were to look at myself and like just not be able to figure it out, and there would be times where we'd spend 25 minutes on one question, multiple choice, because we don't understand why it goes like, and we would just like look up stuff and just try to find it, and like.
And there would be like on the packet there were multiple choice questions, but then there'd be times when like she would take out the multiple choice and then make it like an open response. So like it's like, all right, you remember this question what it was, but if you just memorize the answers, it's not there anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
So you gotta like
apply what you learned.
Actually understand it. Yeah.
You gotta hustle, man. You gotta work out every angle you can, squeeze out every drip of water you can.
Yeah.
And if you do that, you'll be able to, work your way through things. Sometimes you might not even have ever seen the question, but you can imply, okay, this is what they're talking about, or this is what it's asking. And just because you did everything else and you did that, no matter what path you take, if you take a longer path, there will always be something in that path that's helpful somewhere else down the line.
Yeah.
Always, man.
Yeah, and like coming full circle, just like doing every single problem. It's just like that's the extra mile,
Yeah.
And then even like in my biochem class, there was like you were saying, it's like you need to be able to also apply the concepts to other similar things. Because he asked something that was nothing that we learned, but he said that it's similar. It works similarly to serine protease, which is like something that we did learn. So it's slightly different, but you have to be able to like extrapolate and like higher level thinking and stuff like that. And it's just like you wouldn't even know that if you didn't know the basic of how the first thing worked. And you needed to know that 100% before you could even think about applying it to something else.
You'll be surprised. A lot of times in life, that's even in dental school. I mean, it's like that, dude.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to rationalize. A lot of times, it's not just simple, cut and dry, black and white.
Like this is the answer. Like, no,
sometimes you have to,
infer.
Yep.
Absolutely. Thank you.
No worries, man.
Yeah, thank you again.
Till next time.
Till next time.
Thanks, Mohammad. And that's it. All right, guys. Thank you.